Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Above the Line. Today's Above the Line is a very special one. It's very unique. This is something I've been dreaming up for this series, and I'm so excited to have my good friend, Nicholas Alexander Burse. My gosh, let me start. Hold on, let me start over. I'm so excited to have my good friend, Nicholas Alexander Burke. I just know him as Nick, but you all are not close enough with him yet, unless you're subscribed. You need to all be referring to him by his full name, okay? He's gonna be a star, all right? So without further ado, Nick, welcome to Above the Line. I'm so excited that we got to do this.
Thank you for having me. I've been a fan of yours for a while and a fan of the show for a while. So I'm very honored and humbled to be a guest here virtually. So hello, everybody. Nice to see you guys outside of the chat box that we interact in under Sasha's videos. And thank you again, Sasha, for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited that we got to do this. So Nick and I have devised a couple of I'm going to be honest. Nick really did the heavy lifting on this one. He devised a great number of topics for us to talk about today. And I think we're going to kick it off with, at the time of filming this, you guys will see this after Little Mermaid has been out for about a week plus. But at the time of filming this, it just came out last week, and I have not seen it, but I thought Nick, since he's so on the money and going to see all these movies right as they come out, Nick, can you give us a little bit of your spoiler-free thoughts?
Yes, I can. And I think by the time this comes out, my full review will be over on my channel. So make sure you guys check that out. But I saw it on like the Thursday preview night. And well, one, I saw the original, but I barely remember it. And I purposely did not rewatch it because I didn't want to go into this like being biased or anything. So I saw it and I enjoyed the film. I think it's a solid movie. I don't think it's like, oh my God, amazing, great. But I do think that people will walk out thinking that it's amazing and great, and that's a beautiful thing too. Some of my favorite stuff in the movie had to do with some of the effects. And I mean the opening shot of the movie, I think it's the actual ocean. And that was some of my favorite stuff too. The cinematography was like amazing. But as far as the effects, anytime like you see a movie that takes place with a lot of water, Avatar kind of set the bar recently for that. So it's always like a really tall order to follow up. And I think they did a good job here. And what made me appreciate it more is that Halle Bailey posted some of the behind the scenes of it. And like when I saw the movie, I just thought that, okay, Halle is in like a mermaid suit and she probably has like whatever it's called, tracking dots all over her and stuff to track her motion. But I am probably just looking at her skin, and then she has dots on her skin, and maybe like there's like a set, and she's on like wires. I have never been more wrong in my life. If you go to her page, she is like wrapped in like a skin tight suit, a harness. You don't see any of her actual skin. So when you watch the movie, there are a lot of scenes where even her skin isn't real, and her hair is completely wrapped up. Everything is blue screen. Some of the fish are blue screen people. And to take that shot and then look at the trailer, they created everything that you're looking at, and it's crazy. So I think the effects are really good, and if you remember if you remember the first movie, the third act of that movie had somebody growing in size, and I think that it was so well realized here that it actually brings me to one of my cons about the movie is that there are some things that are so well realized that you're like, somebody should have died. And but you forgive it because you remember what type of movie you're seeing. So I think it was really, really good overall. Some of the new songs were my favorite compared to the originals that we had. And this no doubt kicks off Halle Bailey's career with a bang. And it's like you go see this movie and you see the trailer for Color Purple, which she's also in.
Hmm.
So it looks like it's going to be. I mean, well, I was going to say similar to Jonathan Majors, but he kind of like got in trouble.
Yeah.
But like it really feels like she's about to come out the gate very strong, and with the Little Mermaid, followed by the Color Purple, and any future projects we have. So I recommend it. I am probably well, actually no, you can go to my channel to see my actual rating of the movie, but I think it's a really good effort from Disney. However, I don't know if it can join the $1 billion club. Not because of the quality of the movie.
Hmm.
I think enough people like it enough, and I think it's going to have enough repeat business. But because June is so jam packed
Yeah.
with movies, yeah, that are possibly as good, if not better, than this one. And they're all big movies, like The Flash, Transformers, which I'm seeing tomorrow, and yeah, I mean, even in July, you have Barbie, Oppenheimer. I don't know if there's enough free room anymore for The Little Mermaid to get to $1 billion with all
I
these coming out.
I almost wish, for the sake of the movie, having a little bit more running time, because I've heard a lot of the same like compliments and like great about the effects and how visually interesting it is. And I've heard a lot about Prince Eric, I guess, has a song,
Mhm.
and that people are saying that that is really good. But I feel like almost, and I get that Disney probably wanted to give Guardians as much of a runway as possible, but I
Yeah,
feel like with Guardians coming out the first weekend of May, I feel like if Little Mermaid had almost come out the second weekend, no, or not the second weekend, but the third rather than the last weekend of May, and I get that they did it probably for Memorial Day with kids being out of school,
that makes
but
sense.
but I feel like I agree with you that like the buildup of people potentially going to see this movie twice, like a second or third time, because there's not another option, that's kind of gonna go away. Like there's just, yeah, Spider-Verse comes out this weekend.
Yes.
When does Transformers come out?
Um, I don't know, actually. I'm going to an Atlanta screening of it uh tomorrow, which is technically Wednesday, real world time. But I'm not sure when the actual movie comes out.
Yeah.
I'll look at my email.
And this is gonna come across so like, oh, look at me, I'm so important. But like there have been times when I've been like fully convinced a movie has been out for like 2 weeks because I've gotten an email about a screener. Like with
Yeah,
Creed 3, I was fully on an Above the Line episode being like, oh, this movie wasn't really like doing much in the box office or something. And then it was like, oh, it's not out yet. That's why.
I think I watched that live. I think
Yeah.
I remember something like that.
That's
It's
the
yeah.
that's the one thing about
You're
doing.
so famous and busy. It
I'm just
makes
so
sense.
famous and busy. It just but yeah, but no, I totally agree with you in terms of like the mass competition. I mean, I'm excited. I feel like this is the first summer in a while, especially like recovering from the pandemic, that we're having
Yeah,
like blockbuster level movies come out, like in a good portion of like a good amount of them, to the point where I'm excited to go see stuff. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that it was exciting, but or that it was a good movie and that you would recommend people go see it. um there was one thing I was gonna say, that with your comment about like the stakes feeling like somebody like in a live action
yeah.
version of this, that like maybe people should be dying. Like that was something I remember thinking in like Lion King. I was like, okay, I get that this is still animated, but it's so hyper realistic that like this looks like you're watching like a nature documentary of like
Right.
these two animals like about to kill each other. Like it's
And
kind of terrifying.
there was two more things. My other critique of the movie is that I feel like you could shave 20 minutes off of it.
Mm,
I think the movie is maybe 2 hours and some change, but I think you can get this under 2 hours. And this other thing is not like a critique, it's just something funny. So I mean, this movie features hyper realistic animals. And they're talking, but like the food chain still exists. And like there's like a scene where a character eats a character in front of a character. And I'm like, I mean, if all these animals can talk, then that person is probably screaming for their life.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's done so quick. Nobody reacts to it. And I'm like, your cousin just got eaten, I think. So it was funny seeing stuff like that. But I think Disney has a hit. I think I understand why they didn't release it, like to your point. Like it makes sense to do it now. So you
Yeah.
get kids out of school. But I think Guardians, when I compare it to these two, I think Guardians is the better movie. And so they were like, if we have to secure that a movie makes a certain amount of money, then I see them choosing Guardians
Yeah.
as the priority. I think this movie is going to get a lot of viewership once it hits Disney Plus, but also I wonder will it hit any other markets first for people to pay for it.
Yeah.
I feel like some people, like with any project that goes to Disney Plus, some people may just wait until it hits Disney Plus, and it's not like this is a part of like an overarching cinematic universe, so it's not like you
Right.
to see it. But I mean, I hope it does well. Halle is a star, and I feel like there are times you go to see movies where people are singing and you can kind of hear their vocals being corrected with auto tune, and you don't hear any of that here at all.
Yeah. Well, they had that whole performance of her at, I don't know if it was Disneyland or Disney World, but it was like, it sounded exactly like it did on.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I that's so exciting to see someone that talented, like you said, kind of see the rise to stardom, which, speaking of that, one of the other things you had on your list of things to chat about today was kind of the Jonathan Majors situation, and then kind of how that, it's very interesting because I think we're in a time more so than I remember in my lifetime thus far, where we've seen people who are talented, maybe they've been in a few things before, but they're almost having this immediate skyrocket to large franchises and big roles and large contracts. And then in the case of Jonathan Majors and Ezra Miller, we have two individuals who have, as Nick would say, have fumbled the bag in some way. And
Yeah.
Nick, I'll let you give your opinions kind of on this. We don't have to go too deep into it because as a baseline, and Nick and I think Nick would agree with me, everything with Jonathan Majors right now is alleged. So we're still waiting on things to come out, but we've talked about this at length before. So I wanted to give a little time about,
Yeah.
I mean, because it is kind of disappointing to see people who are stars fall from grace as quickly almost as they come to the top of the mountain in a way.
It's so like emotionally invested into them. And I saw like, so with his case playing out, I've seen people kind of inaccurately try to compare this to Ezra situation, or saying like Ezra is getting a lighter treatment than Jonathan. But I think the situations are really different. I think one, Ezra's movie was it was for the most part shot before he went on his like world tour of doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And since that world tour had been made public, he hasn't been signed on for any movies or any more projects once that news came out. So he hasn't gotten any more work that we know of since this has happened. And I think it's safe to say that we expect WB to not continue to use Ezra after this Flash film is over. And if they do, then that's a whole nother conversation. And that would be crazy. And with Jonathan, Jonathan's is different because one, even though he had shot some stuff all like his projects already, we already know he's attached to so many others. Some have been shot, some haven't. And more than any character in the MCU, their universe is depending on Jonathan more than Thanos. Like with Thanos, we saw bits and pieces of him. We saw him in a credit scene in Avengers. Then he showed up as like a small cameo in Guardians, and then he showed up in another credit scene, and you really don't get to interact with him until Infinity War. But with Kang, he's been in Loki. He was the main villain in Ant-Man. He probably has anywhere between a supporting to a major role in Loki season 2, and he's going to have his own movie, or I mean, at least like as of now, as it changes.
Yeah.
He's going to have his own movie with the Kang Dynasty. So you have so many things hinging on him being innocent and stuff. I really think that Jonathan Majors' situation is getting more attention and more eyes on it because of how major of a role he's playing, not just in Marvel, but even in the Creed franchise, the endorsements. I don't know if you noticed, but I think that I need to check the source on this. But somebody reported that like a Creed, it may have been a comic book, or maybe the next movie would be taking place, I think 10 years in the future, focusing on Creed's daughter. And I thought that was so convenient. It's like you make it that far ahead. You don't
Yeah.
reference Jonathan Majors' character in there. So I mean, only time will tell about how this is going to play out. But I think it poses a new question with when it comes to cinematic universes in general. I mean, you talked about how it was like a report that said that Marvel changed their whole plans after they saw Jonathan Majors' performance in the Loki series, and kind of like tailored it around Kang and Jonathan Majors. And knowing that we had an Ezra Miller situation where our star goes on this terrible spree of doing all types of stuff. But he's like the star of one of our biggest films that we're producing. Or like with Jonathan Majors, he's the star of like the next 3 phases of storytelling. I kind of wonder now, when you plan stuff like this, do you hinge it all on one character?
Yeah.
And then it's like, if you don't, then does it seem kind of like how Marvel has been maybe like the last phase or so? You really don't know what you're building to. Like, that the King Dynasty exists, that the Secret Wars movies exist, but watching it as a narrative being played out, it's kind of been all over the place.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know what to do.
I know. I mean, it's a difficult situation. I think you make a really great point about the difference in the two situations, because I think, and I was trying to research as you were chatting about like the different things that I know that the Flash has happened with the production of the Flash. Obviously, the film was there. Here we go. It was initially supposed to release, I think, in 2021 potentially, and then it was moved to June 3rd of last year. Now it's been moved again to then it was pushed to November, and it's been pushed. So it's gotten multiple different release dates, but on top of it, you're dealing with a studio that has a lot less, for lack of a better word, like continuity with the state of the DCEU. We've yet to see what James Gunn is going to do, but it's
a lot less to lose too.
Exactly. And so I think, I mean, they even had, I remember being particularly upset about this, was Billy Crudup was initially supposed to play Barry Allen's father, and then he backed out. Yeah. So like there's been several things that have happened. So I think that's a really important point to make in the distinction of how these two stars are being discussed publicly and how their projects are being affected, or things that will happen with them. And yeah, again, like to your point, when you are building towards something, and let me clarify, in Marvel's case, when they know they have all this stuff that is going to rely on Jonathan Majors' performance, they still have time to rewrite and change things, or even pause, take a step back, and just like wait for things to happen. Right. Whereas the Flash, DC already like had the controversy of Batgirl last year. There's no way they were going to release this or have this movie, The Flash, meet the same fate. And so at the end of the day, it's like there's almost, it's two very different situations. And I think Marvel has been able to benefit in some way from seeing how DC has kind of let some of these things played out, because like you and I have talked about, the marketing around the Flash has been one very much of like a point of like a stance of confidence on behalf of Warner Brothers and DC, to be like, this is a great superhero movie. This is one of the greatest superhero movies ever. Like, we're really proud of this film, almost to say, like, not to excuse any of the crimes that have taken place, not to like give credit to their controversial star Ezra Miller, but more so to just say, like, this movie is worth seeing. Like we're also in the unfortunate situation of having all this other stuff clouding people's opinion of this movie, but go see it. And you and I have talked about very much so how like it feels like once Loki starts being promoted this fall, that Marvel may take a very similar stance of like, this is a really great season of television. Like, unfortunately, there's other things going on, but it's definitely going to be really interesting to see what takes place with Marvel. And I don't know that there is a right thing to do at this point or a wrong thing, because Disney, same parent company, has gone through a very similar situation with Johnny Depp very recently. Right. And once that trial took place, a lot of people changed their opinion. And I'm sure Disney went and made several offers to Johnny Depp of a lot of money to get him back. And so they don't want to put their foot in their mouth with Jonathan Majors, but at the same time, they don't want to be criticized for backing someone who potentially has these crimes in their past.
And like DC has had a track record of just like misses. Like from the Batgirl thing, and then they're rebooting in general. So like Ezra Miller and their situation, and I apologize if I refer to Ezra as he instead of they this whole time, but their situation is primarily affecting one project. And then that project has the benefit of having Michael Keaton in it.
Yep.
So, you see that in the marketing, that Michael Keaton is being marketed just as much as Ezra is in this. So, but like with Jonathan, I mean, literally is the focus of 3 phases of storytelling. That is crazy. And he fumbled a bag. So I don't, and I mean, now, and this may bring us into one of our other topics, like as far as like the future of the MCU.
Yeah.
I, regardless of how this folds, so if this unfolds negatively for Jonathan, I think that I think because of the writer strike now, I think it's more possible to recast him, because it looks like we're going to be waiting on movies and stuff to come out.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't do that, or however you handle that, maybe you can kind of transition into this more being about Secret Wars than about Kang Dynasty. And Secret Wars has 2 runs that they can pull from, like the original Secret Wars, which I barely know about other than Spider-Man. I saw Spider-Man initially got the symbiote suit. But then the second one really focuses on Doctor Doom. I think his name is King God Doom, whatever his name is. I have him in my collection. This is his costume.
Hey.
That run. And he like rips Thanos' spine out of his body. So this is the spine of Thanos. And if you have this figure, you can see like how Thanos has like the lines in his chin.
Yeah.
You can see it on the skull. And
that's awesome.
A really cool figure to have. But I mean, I can see them maybe pivoting to focus more on Doctor Doom and Secret Wars if they need to.
Well, because I've definitely seen a couple theories of people talking about how they're thinking after like that Secret Wars may be like the intro point for the X-Men, and then at that point to kind of fade away from maybe the Avengers and get like a new, almost focus more post phase 6, I guess, on X-Men and Fantastic Four. But it is an interesting point, because I've been just paying attention. I like hearing people's opinions about the MCU stuff, because like I'm always going to go see these movies. Like I'm always interested, I'm always excited. But I do agree that like there are times when there's a lot recently that has been very disjointed. Things have been mentioned but never fully explained. And just looking at like the old MCU post-credit scenes and the way the movies flowed and the release schedule of them, even if you were waiting a year between like a movie, it was in that next movie you'd get a little bit more of a piece of the puzzle. Like it wasn't like we have, and again, not to sound like a broken record to anyone who's seen these on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, but like the Harry Styles and Charlize Theron and the post credits in Shang-Chi, when it's like some point in the future potentially, but we don't know, and like all of these the Celestial coming out of the earth, like all these things have just been mentioned and never readdressed. And at a certain point, at least I'm of the belief of like, I don't think that Marvel should abide by like the sunk cost fallacy of like, well, we put it out there, so we have to fade from it. Like, I would be okay if at a certain point, like, they were just like, you know what, like, we all are gonna acknowledge that we do live in the real world and like some crazy stuff has happened.
Yeah.
We're not gonna follow up with this storyline. Like, I would probably be okay with that if then the new storyline was more cohesive. But I think that's the issue, is like they've laid a lot of chess pieces down on the board. And like you said, with the writer's strike, I mean, Blade, like I'm just fingers crossed that that movie, that just people either walk away from it and it doesn't happen, or that like it comes out and it's great. But I don't want it to be half-assed at this point, you know? Like,
Yeah, I think the writer strike for Marvel is a good thing because well, one, I think that the MCU has grown way. I think it's so big now that it's impossible for Kevin Feige to be over everything, and we start to see that in the quality of the projects. I mean, Marvel for the most part still turns out like, if anything, it's between like this is really good and this is okay, then something.
yeah,
It's rare that we get something that is straight up bad, but you know, this is coming from a studio who's had 10 years of almost a perfect 10 years with a few misses. So I think the writer strike gives them some time to regroup, maybe replan some stuff and slow down. But to your point, like they introduced so many things that even I, as a fan, even I'm worried. So like those credit scenes, or the Celestial coming out of the earth to there being, like a child or like a teenage version of our characters. And there's so many new characters, which is great, but realistically, how do you tackle that? And it's I don't know. I don't know how you do it. But hopefully they can sit down and regroup and give us something. I do think that I think Loki season 2 is going to be okay quality wise. I think Echo's going to be bad because they're releasing the whole thing.
that
Um,
does have me worried.
and then the Marvels, I want it to be good, so we'll see. But I think after that, I think all their other projects are in the middle of being filmed, so that we may see, a change in quality going forward. So
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. That's sort of my hope, is that as much as I want the writer's strike to be resolved, I feel like the best thing that Marvel can do to take advantage of the situation is they have been going gangbusters since 2020 when they didn't release anything. And I think they need to come up with a new strategy for release. My hope, to be quite honest, and this is nothing against anyone that's like excited for House of Harkness or any of these other like announced Disney Plus shows, but I think they need to like half what's on their slate right now. Put effort and resources into the stuff that is like Daredevil. That needs to be a top priority for them, I think. I think whatever they're doing with Spider-Man 4, which I've seen some more stuff pop up about recently, that needs to be a priority for them. And like you said, like it very much just needs to be like, let's look at the plan, let's look at every loose thread we have. I'm not asking everything to be answered right now. I'm just saying, like, take the time to build like 3 steps ahead. The only issue with that is, like you said, anybody who's working in a writing capacity, or like in a like kind of allying with the writer's strike, is
yeah,
not going to be around to do that. And then I'm sure once this all gets resolved, there's still going to be some crappy TV shows and movies that come out of this, because the studios are just going to want stuff back and up and running as fast as possible. And
yeah,
I don't know that they have a ton kind of locked and loaded at the current point in
yeah.
time.
They want a lot of quantity, but they don't want to fund it. I mean, if I was them, I would honestly maybe shelf anything that isn't integral to the overall journey to Kang
Yeah.
or Secret Wars. Like I would shelf Echo, or I mean that's already announced coming out, but I probably wouldn't do House of Harkness. And yeah, just kind of streamline of everything. But yeah, We'll see. I mean, I think you're starting to see changes now. Like the writer of, I think it was either Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, but he was replaced. He was the same writer for Ant-Man, and Ant-Man
Okay.
didn't do what Marvel wanted it to
Wanted
do.
it.
So he was removed from the project before the strike happened.
Okay.
So yeah, but it makes me. So I think now I'm more excited about the future of the DCU now than I am
Yes.
the future of the MCU.
Yes. I mean, I definitely think it feels more of like a, dare I say, like a clean slate to like start over with. Like, I feel like James Gunn probably has, like you said, the kind of creative control that Kevin Feige has lost by way of expansion of the universe, which everybody is hoping for, obviously.
Right.
But James Gunn is kind of has it in its infant stage and can kind of grow it, and has the potential really to have, like, let's say, an Infinity Saga type run with DC, depending on what he wants to do with it and how things work. Which of the films are you most excited for, or do you have any concerns about stuff like Flash and Shazam coming out now, and how that like impacts the future? Like, where do you see like the next couple years of it being?
I'm more concerned about what their big event will be, because I think James Gunn has said we're not going to redo anything that's already been done. So like the biggest movies for them have been like Justice League and the Zack Snyder version of Justice League, and this loose adaptation of the Flash. So when I'm looking at stuff, like I think the Justice League's first villain ever was Starro. And they did that in James Gunn's Justice League. And then I mean not Justice League,
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. And then we did Steppenwolf in the original Justice League. And then in Zack Snyder's one, we did him again better, but we included a lot more dark side. And if I'm holding James Gunn like to that statement of we're not going to redo stuff, I'm like, okay, then what do we build
Yeah.
to? I have three things that I think that they may do.
All right, share.
One is the Blackest Night story arc, which was a Green Lantern story arc. And so I think I'm gonna do them in like least likely to happen to most likely. I think this is least likely because to do this, pretty much all your characters would have to die. Like the main point of that line is a new Lantern Corps is introduced called the Black Lanterns, and they essentially can bring people back from the dead. So you have Batman as a Black Lantern, Superman as a Black Lantern, and stuff like that. And I don't see them doing that this early. So my second idea was just like that. I forgot it. So we're gonna skip to what I think that they can do, which is it was called Deceased, but it was spelled like DC. I think DC, like the logo, then
Yeah.
like however they spelled it, but it was called Deceased, and it was about like Darkseid trying to get the anti-life equation, and somehow it gets downloaded into Cyborg, and since he's connected to the internet, he infects like every piece of technology that has a screen. So if you look at any type of screen, phone, laptop, car, you get infected with this equation, and it essentially turns you into a zombie.
Ooh.
And so people all around the world became affected, and including the superheroes. So like, and it's like it's the superheroes who get infected are like the last people you want to get infected. Flash gets infected, and just being Flash, but just killing people, infecting people super fast, and the only person that can stop him is Superman. And you see essentially what's an unstoppable force moving an immovable object when they collide in the ocean. And so Superman obliterates Flash, but the Flash was going fast enough for his bones to penetrate Superman. And now Superman's infected, and he leaves. So he leaves like the solar system because he's like, I'm infected. I'm going to kill everybody on Earth. And eventually he comes back infected. Wonder Woman kills him. she gets infected. So it's just, you just seeing your favorite heroes die. And it's an interesting story because it in the book, it plays out so long that Batman and Superman are replaced by their sons as the new Batman
Oh.
and stuff. But I
Do you
can
think there's
possibly
any
see
chance
that.
that they do that with the like, because I think the thing that I find the most like, what are they going to do with this is the whole concept of Batman starting at an age where he already has a son for the Batman and Robin movie.
Yeah.
Not only just a son, but a son that's old enough to, be like be at a superhero crime fighting age, which
Right.
has never been disclosed. The youngest I think we have to do it is Spider-Man at 15. So I'm assuming that's like in my head. So, we've talked about this. Like, how old is the guy going to be? Is he going to be a younger person playing older, whatever, for Batman? But what I'm interested is if like, okay, if he's already older, do they do something like either one of those storylines where Batman ends up dying and is brought back as a Black Lantern, or becomes a zombie, dies, then his son replaces him, and then there's a future time where he's reiterated. I don't know. It's like very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. I remember the other storyline.
Tell us, do tell.
I forgot what it's officially called. It may have been Dark Knight Metal, but basically there's an arc where you get these alternate Batmans, and each one is like a representation of another member of the Justice League. So you get like an Aquaman version, who's a woman. You get a Flash version called the Red Death, which has an amazing costume. It's like an all red Batman suit. And the bat symbol is split in half by like the negative space of a lightning bolt. And just how it was just very comical how that Batman became Flash. Like I think wanted to steal Flash's powers to save his parents, and Flash was like, no. So he like straps him to the front of the Batmobile and just drives super fast. It's just some way somehow he enters the Speed Force, emerges as the Red Death. But I say all this to say that one of the Batman that came from that arc was called the Batman Who Laughs. And in that universe, I think Batman is infected by the Joker's blood and essentially becomes like, so somebody who is crazy as the Joker with all the resources and knowledge of Batman. And like that arc starts off, he kills like his universe's Nightwing, Robin, Red Hood, he kills them all. And it was amazing. But so I could see them maybe doing an adaptation of that line for sure.
I mean, that's super. When you first said it, I thought of in Super Smash Bros. When Kirby like absorbs someone else and then like takes their power. Like that was my vision of that. But the card thing is crazy. When you said Batman Who Laughs, like I feel like that's almost the next thing we need. Like, I don't want to say I am always a fan of seeing the Batman Joker thing play out on screen.
Yeah.
I like seeing different actors do it. I think it's super interesting. Crazy guy versus super rich guy. Like, it's just an interesting power dynamic, and I like it. But to the next new thing you can really do with that, rather than just being like, here's a new Academy Award winning actor or somebody we really like Barry Keoghan, and like cast him in this role, to merge the two, which is absolutely insane.
Was sick. Like he had he had robins, but there were like these demon robins that were like attached to like dog chains. It was crazy. But and I think the name alone, the Batman Who Laughs, is really
Yeah.
And I mean, there's like another arc I wanted to see called. It was like I think Batman and the three Jokers, and you learn that there have been three different Jokers this whole time. I think that would be an interesting thing, but I think that's more like a Batman centric story where the Batman Who Laughs kind of affects everybody in the DCU.
Yeah. And I feel like it's super interesting because, like you said, these are ideas for like their big event, right? Like an Infinity War, like Infinity Saga level event. But then there's also like, especially with, and I think this is the thing I'm most interested to see, because I think this is the way that they will brand themselves as the DCEU and the well, I don't even know what it's called, like the main universe, and then like stuff like the Batman and the Joker. Or Joker. I feel like I'm interested to see like storylines like this. Like, are they going to be upfront and disclose? Has James Gunn said that? Has he said like we're going to be upfront and disclose like whether something's connected or not? Or are they just going to be like,
No.
surprise?
He responds on Twitter a lot, and I wish he'd stop because I think he's gonna put himself in a box, and people are
Yeah,
gonna be like, "Oh, but you said this," and I'm like, "Just James, stop, please."
I
So
know.
he's been the one to clarify stuff. Like even when he was at Marvel, he'll be, "Hey, this person isn't in the movie," and stuff. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. So I'm hoping I'm hoping that he just cherry picks. And some people get upset about that. But I'm like, guys, realistically, why would I get rid of something that worked? If it made money,
Yeah.
if it makes money, if it had a good critical response, then it makes sense for me to cherry pick that with some new stuff. And I really wish people would stop complaining and get over it and realize that at the end of the day, they're all of it is fictional. Like it doesn't matter.
I
Just let's
do think that's
enjoy
something that
ourselves.
like, and I feel like, and I don't want to blame it. This was something like we talked about when I was in school as like a case study, but like the response to and the releasing the Snyder Cut, like that hashtag and that movement, I feel like that has brought the superhero stuff, level stuff to like we've talked about this. Like I don't think that it's a good thing for fans to have too much power. Like I think fans coming up with jokes and things that were like referenced in Avengers Endgame that have kind of become like memes within a fandom or things that are referenced frequently. Like that's great. That's all fine and dandy. Or like fan casting like John Krasinski.
Mhm.
Phenomenal choice. That was amazing. Great. Good job. But at the same time, I think when you I like you said, I appreciate the transparency to some degree, but at another point, if you continually like raise these fans to believe that they have power to say things, and then movies don't go the way they do, like we cannot just like let the rest of the DC be like, oh, well, I didn't like this movie, so re-release it, or like redo this, and I want this storyline, or I don't like this, or this shouldn't be connected. And I agree with you. Like I think that's a better strategy of keeping that more like closer to the chest of like, okay, this
Mhm.
may show up again, this may not. But I do fear that that won't have as good of a payoff as like Marvel's more interconnected universe, at least in the early days, early phases, because there was that payoff. And I feel like now in Marvel, there doesn't feel like there's as much there. And maybe that's where people are starting to get irritated. And I feel like if again, Marvel can learn from DC with the Ezra Miller and Flash situation, DC can learn from Marvel in that like payoff and getting people to pay attention. But at the same time, if they're making good standalone movies, people are going to go see them.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So I wish people just like relax and give James Gunn some slack. Like he's at the end of the day, he is trying to course correct a brand that has needed course correction for almost a decade.
yeah,
And he has to do it in a corporate timeline on top of that. Like, because
exactly.
no matter what, this all has to make sense financially. How do we, make it work? So yeah, I'm just gonna let him do what he does.
Yeah.
If people come back, they come back. If they don't, they don't. I mean, if the casting rumors are true, that Margot Robbie will be Invisible Woman, and we may not see her as Harley, and I like her as Harley, but I think I would much rather enjoy a cinematic universe. If that is the route, that is good. And those other movies still exist. I can always go to them.
Yep.
I can always look at the figure in the back or something, but I just, I want more than anything for DC to win because I think that their characters are more interesting than Marvel's characters. But it just the Flash movie, and DC has all the ideas first, and Marvel just beats them to it. They had Batman v Superman, but Civil War was a better movie. Uh, they had Flash this Flash movie was announced before the Flash TV show aired, which is maybe in its ninth season. It has
That's
wrapped,
insane.
and the movie is coming out after the series finale. So I mean, like the Flash had the multiverse idea, but we have gotten to it already just
Yep.
because Marvel is it's a better machine. So I really just want to see them win.
Yeah.
And even when we thought they were gonna win, then Ezra Miller was like, let's mess some stuff up. So
Yeah.
I don't know how the Flash is going. I think I think if Ezra Miller never did if they never did anything bad, then I think that Flash will be hands down $1 billion film easy. But knowing that they have done what they've done, I think that's definitely going to affect the box office
Well, it's
on
hard
that.
because I think there's going to be people who, even who though they may really want to see the movie, may feel like, well, I'm gonna wait a hot second and just not go see it quite yet. And a hot second in the box office is really all the movie gets in theaters anymore. So
Especially
like
in June. Yeah.
it's insane. So I mean I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, and I've heard a lot of people say this since Guardians came out. I think Guardians was proof that people are not tired of superheroes. They're not tired of the genre. They're not tired of these like interconnected universes or seeing the same stars over and over again. But people want something that's good. Like they want something of a high caliber. And my hope, my greatest hope, is that whether there's a point, I hope that in the future there's a point where DC is good and then maybe Marvel's a little worse and then they flip flop. I think having that level of competition, or I mean, best case scenario, they're both good all the time because there's enough competition. But I think that's the one reason I'm so invested in the DC rebrand and take off and James Gunn's plan for it, is because ultimately that's going to impact Marvel in some way. And I hope that it's for the better. So yeah.
You think Barbie's gonna make more money than Oppenheimer?
That's a great question. I feel like that's so interesting. I feel like on one hand, you got Christopher Nolan, you've got a period drama, basically.
Hmm.
That's gonna appeal maybe more to, I'm trying to think, because they both come out end of July, right? The 21st.
I think so. Yeah, around that
Okay.
time.
I feel like on one hand, that appeals to, here's the problem. We have two really like film bro directors. And I say film bro in terms of like anybody that's on Letterboxd or people who keep up with the film community. Like we've got Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig with Noah Baumbach writing. So like anybody who's like very into cinema knows who both of these people are. So I feel like when you talk about like a film bro audience, like if it was Quentin Tarantino against a Marvel movie, I'd probably bet on the Quentin Tarantino one. But I don't know. What do you think?
I
I can't
think
decide.
I think Oppenheimer is going to be the better movie. I think Barbie is going to make more money and be the more popular movie.
I feel
For
like
sure.
Barbie has more
It's more
wide
crossover.
appeal,
Yeah,
because I even feel like, at least from what I'm seeing from the marketing of it and with the main trailer coming out, like there definitely seem to be a lot of jokes that are written. Obviously, one, it's kind of smart because it plays with the like the toy being, they're not real people, like they're toys, like it's a Barbie doll and a Ken doll and whatever. So there's been a lot of like suggestive jokes that like the one about, oh, do you want to stay over tonight? And she's like, why? And he's like, oh, I don't know, actually. I feel like there's stuff like that that could make the film. I don't know what it's rated. Does it have a rating yet?
I'm assuming PG-13.
Because that's what I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess it's PG-13 so that kids can still potentially come see it,
Mhm.
but a lot of that stuff's going to go over their head. And that's where I just feel like Barbie may end up making more money, just because like nobody's taking their kid to Oppenheimer.
Right. And like I mean, both movies have star power, but I think Barbie has better star power in the sense of you don't have to necessarily be like a cinema fan to recognize the cast. Like people
Yeah.
know who Margot Robbie is, Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, Issa Rae. I think they have a lot of good faces in there that anybody can recognize.
Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the final trailer or the most recent trailer says, if you love Barbie, this movie for you is for you, and if you hate Barbie, this movie
Yeah.
is for you. So I think they're gonna kill opening weekend. I think they're gonna do an amazing job. I think the movie is going to be really good, and I think the movie is going to be something similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think the movie is going to be something different than what we expect it's going to be.
I think so too. I
Okay.
mean, the main trailer gave away more, and I liked it because it still wasn't a ton, but there was a little bit there of like the I don't know. I'm very interested and like I remember when the movie was announced. It's super interesting that it's gone through so many iterations because there was a point when it was supposed to be Amy Schumer
Yeah.
being Barbie, and I just think like not hating on Amy Schumer, I just don't think she's that funny, and so like I don't think that would have worked as well as somebody like Margot Robbie in the role. And again, there's just been so many changes with it, but I think there's once Greta Gerwig was attached, I was like, okay, this has more than just oh, it's
Mhm.
like a Barbie movie. Like we're making movies about toys now. Like, and I agree with you. I think it's also the look of the movie. Like so many movies that we see, and there's obviously been so many jokes about like Oppenheimer going to be like really dark and like kind of desaturated because it's like a historical piece and kind of dark drama versus Barbie, which is like hot pink everywhere. But I think even just the feel of the movie for a summer movie, it's
Yeah.
going to have more power. I agree with you. But
It's
I
definitely,
think at the end of the
yeah.
day, they'll both make it to the award conversation. But I think Oppenheimer might have more weight behind it because of like you said, the cast and the crew and that sort of stuff.
I can see Oppenheimer like getting the awards, but I think the overall better summer movie, definitely Barbie, the comedy, the star power. I mean, I knew the movie was going to be something special when like the first trailer references like the 2001 Space Odyssey with her throwing
Yep.
everybody in the air, and I was like, okay, this is something a little bit deeper here, it's something more cerebral. But it will still be good for the people who aren't looking for something deeper, who just want to enjoy themselves.
Exactly. It's going to be fun enough with enough of a message. That's what I'm excited to see. I think that one will have a little bit more rewatch potential,
Oh
maybe.
yeah, and it's shorter. I think Christopher Nolan said Oppenheimer is touching almost 3 hours long.
That doesn't
Um,
surprise me.
and I'm like, oh, I see these movies like after work at night. Like, please, like,
I know. I know. By the time you get to the theater, it's like 8, so you're leaving at
uh,
11, and
it's
it's like
crazy.
it's too much.
My God. So we'll we'll see. Like it's about to go down. And then Oppenheimer, the way they market it, it's they've been releasing the trailers in theaters exclusively, and then it hits the internet. So I just don't even think enough people know that this movie is coming. I think that Christopher Nolan, I think more than any movie he's put out recently, that they're really banking on, Christopher Nolan as the name. But if you look at his last couple movies, like The Dark Knight Rises was good, but wasn't as good as The Dark Knight. Interstellar had an amazing first two acts, and then the third act, the black hole turns into a bookshelf.
Yeah.
And Tenet I think, was an amazing film with really bad sound.
Yep.
And was kind of confusing for other audiences. A lot of people, I asked people, have they seen it? They said, no, I've never seen it. I'm like, to me, Tenet has one of the best sequences I've seen in film, like in my life. But nobody has seen this movie, nobody knows it
It was
exists.
also the timing because it came out September of 2020 or whatever. Like
No.
I that's another really great point that I kind of forgot about is like Barbie is like the thing on the internet right now. Like Barbie has the power of the internet, of social media, of like virality around it that I think is peaking at just the right time and the way they're releasing the trailers. Like it feels very like almost like a Gen Z model that then like other people are subscribing to or following along with because they're also excited for the movie, but also because maybe they want to feel younger or something. Like I don't know. I just think it's like compared to Oppenheimer, there is like I respect Christopher Nolan. I respect all kinds of directors who want to keep a theatrical window, that they want to release movies in theaters, they want to get trailers in theaters, get butts in seats in theaters, but like at the same time, the world is changing and it's
Yeah.
interesting to see if people like Christopher Nolan will suffer for not changing with it, or if being kind of steadfast and like purist in a way about the way the movie's being released and marketed, if that will work out for him.
I think like people like me and you and the people who subscribe to your channel, I think we'll see like, we'll appreciate Oppenheimer for like the movie that it's going to be. Like we know Christopher Nolan is a good director. He has good writers. So I think we're going to appreciate everything about it. But to your point, will everybody else? So my biggest fear is that I don't know what the budget is on Oppenheimer, but I'm just going to assume it's high.
Yeah, it's probably a safe bet.
Right. And so I just think about, is Oppenheimer going to make enough money? More than anything to justify, like, I mean, you have Robert Downey Jr. in your movie, and you have Josh Peck. So it's like it's crazy. So I hope that it has garnered, or when it comes out, it will have enough, word of mouth for it to make money. I'm not worried about Barbie. I think it's playing the social media marketing very well. And I think it's going to be a really good film. I'm excited for the continued success that Margot Robbie is going to experience. But we'll see. June and July is going to be a really
see.
fun month.
Do we have to do a recap when they both come out? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Will we have Nick back on the channel to talk about it? Probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I think
or I'll be on Nick's channel to talk about it. Who knows?
Exactly. Oh yeah, we could do it like that. Yeah.
Change it up.
Yeah, just call line the above,
Just shuffle it a little bit, just change it up. Guys, for the sake of time, Nick and I have got to go. Nick, please tell the people where they can find you.
Yes. So guys, you can find me on my YouTube channel at Nicolas Alexander Burke. That's Nicolas Alexander Burke. You can find me on YouTube. You can follow me on social media. I don't even know my name. You can follow me on my Instagram at Nicolas_Burke. That's Nicolas without the H. So Nicolas_Burke. And then I just like tweet funny stuff on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter at Nick_Burke96. Thank you so much, Sasha, for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you, Nick.
So for a while, this is a dream come true for me. And I hope that you have the time of your life.
Thank you.
Next coming weeks, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just get really drunk. And I'll see you at work maybe in like December when you're done.
Like whenever I decide to come back. It's totally in my control when I don't answer to anyone. Absolutely.
Anybody,
no.
Yeah. you lead that corner that's your corner that you lead in the office.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my space. That's my space. Yeah. Not anybody else's.
Come on.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to go follow Nick on all of his socials and subscribe to his channel. Most importantly, I don't know how I'm going to be splitting these above the lines up, but I will be back very soon with live shows. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys later.
Yes. Goodbye.
There it is.